Warning: I purposefully try to speak as monotoned and slowly as possible to make sure my words are understood. I can get excited with teaching, and I have been told by my English learner students that it can slow their process of learning. This video will cover the writing viewpoint I shared with my students on writing in their prose essay. Luckily, I did take the time to observe and examine student writing for at least 3 essays. Then I took 2 hours of class time to ask and listen to the class's individual responses on how they managed to learn their writing skills. Based on that, I developed how to get my students to write with depth, brevity, clarity, and relevance mentioned in my writing a 4-paragraph essay. For this video, be sure to have the following supplies or whatever tools you use to take notes. Before we get to the example paragraphs, let me preface the idea of the 6 W's. In most parts of the world, there are just 5 W's: who, what, when, where, and why. Well, I consider how as one of the W's because it contains a W in it. When you apply this concept, the order of the W's are not to be static, fixed, or immovable. There is no certain order of answering the questions or compiling the sentences into a paragraph with this writing viewpoint. AP writing is not about formulas. If you are watching this for a formula to score a 6, stop watching. To get a 6 takes being flexible according to the text given and the prompt required to be answered. There is no one strategy or formula that works with all types of passages. Looking at body paragraph A, that means the answers for who, what, when, where, why, and how may not be answered in that order. As you are writing, the answers may logically flow in the order of why, how, when, where, who, and what. In your supporting paragraphs, body paragraphs, basically the middle paragraphs, they're made of the answers to 6W questions as well. The sentences may not sound coherently correct in the who, what, when, where, why, and how format. Like in a body paragraph B, you'll need to know immediately which sentence should go first, second, third, and etc., according to how you want the reader to understand your thought process. That means the sentences in the body paragraph B may need to be written how you think you should be best able to win your argument, which could be in the order of where, what, why, who, when, and how. Finally, you need to know that your supporting paragraphs will not align all in the order of who, what, when, where, why, and how. Just like supporting paragraph A may be written with the answers in the order of why, how, when, where, who, what, and then body paragraph B may be where, what, why, who, when, and how. And if you write supporting paragraph C, the answers may end up ordered as who, where, how, when, why, and what. There really should not be a formulaic response. You may not be able to answer all the questions, but you may be able to elaborate further on the answer you have given. Be flexible. Don't stress yourself over a formula for writing. This is not math, but grammar and sentence paragraph structure is key. As I cover the paragraphs, you're going to see why you're going to need to be flexible, as the answers for the 6 W's will often overlap, and the best way I can think to give you a visual show of that is by using an actual example from an essay. Let's get started with the introductory paragraph. I'm going to skip the who part for a moment and go ahead and start with the hook or the what. Please see my video on hooks to learn 5 ways to start a paragraph. The what is your hook. Once you have an idea for your thesis sentence or sentences, you can go ahead and write your hook. The hook usually is the first sentence of the introductory paragraph, but as you grow as a creative writer, you will find moments where you will have the hook in different parts of the paragraph. In the introductory paragraph, the hook is highlighted in yellow. Next is when. When does the story take place? This means telling specifically when the event from the given passage is occurring. Examples of this could be like, given the age of the character. Did the incident occur in between class periods or during a planned or unplanned competition, etc.? The sentence highlighted in blue is an example of how you would write in telling when. Where is including information that's culturally or historically important for the passage's setting. So you're going to give the cultural or historical setting of the passage as something as like, is this taking place during autumn or fall, in the month of April, in World War I? Is it a time during segregation of race or religion? Did it occur during an international event like the Olympics of 776 BC? Providing this setting prepares the reader for some behaviors that may no longer be considered the norm in modern time, or for readers who do not have rivers and live in a desert climate. It is practical for you to actually put a prank at a river. Now back to who. In this particular example, who, why, and how are all compiled into the thesis sentences. In the 2 unhighlighted sentences, the who and how are underlined. The adjective is highlighted in purple. As a writer, I do like to split my theses into 2 parts, but I do teach my students how to write their theses in 1 sentence, just so they get that practice in including the necessary parts to meet the AP literature rubric. The basic equation I normally give them to put their theses into 1 sentence is they write in the passage from, and then they put the novel title, comma, add the author's first and last name, uses, and then whichever literary element they want to use, put 1. And then if they're only going to be using 2 literary elements, I'll say put your first literary element, put the word and then put that second literary element. Now, if they're going to do 3 literary elements, I'd say put the literary element, comma, put the second literary element, comma, then put the conjunction and then put their third literary element. And then follow that by to examine, and then insert the character's name that the prompt wants you to focus on and examine, and then add whatever particular adjective you feel that character, how did they respond during this passage. Then you'll put that adjective before response, and then you're going to add in the specific location or time of when that particular incident was occurring. For the why, you need to look at the prompt information, which can be found on, well, the prompt. If you cross out information before the then in a well-written essay, you are given the reason why you are writing this essay. To analyze the text parts that represent the complex response of the narrator, specifically at the riverbank. Now key in on the word complex, because that is telling you that you'll need to focus on why the response is a multi-layered or complicated response. And instead of represent, I can go ahead and use a synonym, either demonstrate, characterize, or exemplify. I can use other similar words just to help focus my mind further in writing the essay. Before I go on, I want you to remember that this is a timed exam. So try to focus your writing as much as possible while also meeting the requirements of the rubric. I regularly have my students to read the 4 points column of the commentary and evidence part. It is their main goal in writing with their supporting and body paragraphs. Why should they look at the other columns if they're striving for the full 4 points? At the end, their writing may not earn 4 points in the opinion of the assessor due to grammar or structure issues, because the rubric does state in the highlighted green that writing cannot earn the 4th point with grammatical or mechanical errors. I think students working towards the full 4 points establishes them better for success to fix those grammar and structure issues than if they wrote for 3 points. Basically, it takes practice to recognize grammar and structure issues. I often gave grammar exercises and even a grammar brochure that I made for them to practice during their study hall periods. I did keep the exercises simple, even when discussing punctuation, because I only had 3 to 4 months to get them ready. But I believe it worked since 85% of them scored 3 or higher on all of their essays. If you want me to upload a video on American grammar, which is a bit different from British grammar, how about this? If 1,200 of you want me to upload my grammar and sentence structure viewpoints, write in the comments section the word grammar and what number out of 1,200 you are. If it ends up getting legitimately to the 1,200 out of 1,200, I'm not joking, I will upload a new video showing my slides and exercises on grammar and structural fixes. Within the body supporting paragraphs, be specific. Make your writing more efficient by putting in clues in each paragraph to keep you focused in order to lessen you writing off topic or inputting general statements, both which count against your essay for the exam. For example, in the first sentence, I made sure that I wrote Pike's point of view to remind myself of whose examples of viewpoints I need to find from the text and write about. That's a little clue for me that lets the reader know that I'm about to give textual points, explain those points, and state the why and how of the point of view. So for all your body paragraphs, the questions remain the same. Who is involved? What parts prove the author's writing technique? And by this, you want to make sure you find at least 3 examples from the text that support the literary device you're talking about. No more than 4 though. 3 minimum, but no more than 4. When is this happening? Where is the incident or encounter occurring? Why did the author use the technique? And how is the character, or it could be characters, reacting? The color-coded examples show how every single sentence is providing one or multiple pieces of information. Please pause the video and read through the questions of the 6 W's and notice the corresponding answers highlighted below. Notice how even though you have those questions, you're not creating one complete sentence and then just compiling those sentences, one sentence, sentence 1, sentence 2, sentence 3, sentence 4, sentence 5, sentence 6. You're taking pieces of the information from the answers and you're compiling the information together into one paragraph. So again, you're not just taking the sentences that answer the questions and then putting them in the paragraph. This is an AP exam. You want to take the information from those answers and have them meld together into one paragraph. Your who and what both act as a way for you to review or again proofread your introductory paragraph. But the focus on who are affected by the scene and what occurred, and then I have revisit the theses. Those 2 W's are to make sure that your argument or the reason for your argument or your side of the argument mentioned or written about in your introductory paragraph is the same one that you're going to be concluding your argument on in your conclusion. And this is a way for you to also check for your body paragraphs to make sure, okay, even though I said I was going to be on this side of the argument, I realized I wrote more about the other side of the argument in both of my body paragraphs. Instead of panicking and thinking I need to start from scratch, I'm not. I'm going to keep the 2 body paragraphs and then sum up that side of the argument, my conclusion, and then all I need to do is go back to my introductory paragraph and just cross through those sentences for that argument and write in a new argument that supports my body paragraph in conclusion. So in case you ever get in a position where you realize, oops, I wrote about a different argument than what I was supposed to from my stated argument in my introductory, try to salvage what you can, especially again, this is a timed part. And when it comes to the character, in your conclusion, you want to make sure whatever character you spoke about in your theses is the same character you talked about throughout and you're about to conclude. Any extra characters mentioned are only used to support the argument. For example, it is not necessary for me to write about Loon being the son of a local prominent official. That information does not strengthen my side of the argument. Yet, me writing and focusing on Loon's behavior and age does strengthen my argument, so I only included that information. When it comes to the what, you want to focus on your chosen adjective that you used in your thesis. Once you look at that adjective, go directly back and look at your prompt. Notice your prose fiction prompt usually has something about the word complex or is telling you what type of response that should have occurred. So you need to, in your conclusion, now make whatever chosen adjective, you're going to explain why is it complex. Basically, another way of looking at this, you're just going to add an adverb to your adjective by reiterating the emotions or actions that led to the character's response. Only now it's going to be in accordance to how the character responded at the end of the passage. Now, let me go ahead and I want you to see the color codings of these so you can follow along. But the when in the text is to show how the character responded at the end of the passage. You're given that answer. This may require you skimming the text, but while you're writing the body paragraphs, you should have been able to deduce this answer to when was there a hint to this conclusion. And if you simply just look at your where and when in answers in your body paragraphs, that is going to clue you in on exactly when at the moment did Pike experience a rational response. When in the body supporting paragraphs did it suddenly become complex. And that's where you're going to do the where part. Where will or did this incident lead to? That's for you. You want to put something in to refresh your reader's mind on what you stated in your previous paragraphs. You want to tell how the incident affects or affected the character for better or worse. Pause the video if you need to finish reading the color-coded answers. If you want to see a more broken down detailed explanation for this, again, please take some time and watch my prose fiction essay, and that's where I take the information from the text to notes to sentences to paragraphs. Before I start explaining the how and why, I need to give you some information on entailment. For those of you who have seen my video on 6 W's of prose, this part of the literary device video is about entailment. For those of you who have seen my video on literary devices and are now watching my 6 W's video, this part of the video is about entailment. I did a joke there. Yeah, I'm not a good comedian. Anyway, by looking at your answer for why the author used a particular technique in each of the body paragraphs, you can see the relationship between sentences whereby one sentence or idea will be true if all of the others are also true. Using the passage text, there will be a connection or purpose to why the author chose a specific literary element as a writing technique. This is highly dependent on your chosen examples from the passage. Looking at the breakdown of the author's purpose for imagery, diction, point of view, and setting, these are examples. The author's purpose for writing is for the reader to learn from the text. The author does this by using multiple writing techniques for literary devices. For those who struggle in how multiple devices can prove an argument, or if you find it difficult to state why or how the devices can support other devices, notice the overlapping of the highlights. Diction in green can support imagery and setting with this word choice. Setting in blue can support point of view and imagery. Point of view can validate imagery, diction, and setting. And imagery, with its 5 senses, can support diction, point of view, and setting. This allows you to see how you can mentally transition from one device to the other while at the same time giving additional proof of your argument for the device. This is why you sometimes get overlapping in your answers, and it's perfectly normal. Okay, to correctly answer the how and why, you must understand that to get one correct, the other must be correct. If you have a transitional thought connecting your literary devices together using textual evidence, that will clue you in on the connection to the how. Let me try to explain a little further. To answer the how, you need to reread your body paragraphs or, again, proofread, another self-check moment. And then as you're rereading, you're looking at the character's thoughts, actions, or quotes. So here we have Winton frames the river incident from Pike's point of view. Pike was about to swim in a local river when a group of frantic females shouted for him to assist in recovering a drowning boy. Winton wrote that Pike observed a grubby pair of thongs to prove the presence of the missing boy. Winton purposely shares Pike's thoughts to strategically wade in from the bank to rescue the drowning boy in lieu of diving into the river. Pike's first-person viewpoint provides specific details about feeling himself rising to the moment when he realized, and you hear, this is a perfect proofreading thing. In this sentence, I see that I should have viewpoint provides. I should have had an S there. And then I'm also noticing with the females yanking at their own ears and screaming that he was the only logical person available to save the drowning boy. I, as the writer, I want to put a comma before screaming in that, because that's how I want the reader to understand that thought process. And this was an example of showing how rereading your body paragraphs, look at that, I just did some proofreading and correction. Yay! Okay, anyway, continue. This first person point of view allows the reader insight into why Pike acted the way he did during the situation. The technique shows how Pike processed the urgent event analytically while others around him were emotional and distraught. Pike's heroic actions and thoughts are thwarted at the diving board when Ivan Loon bursts from the water with a feral shriek. Here is where Winton's diction or word choice demonstrates the difference in mature actions between Pike and Loon. The passage details that Loon proceeded to bob provocatively in the water as though to further tease the woman. Winton's phrasing of Loon's actions to laugh at the woman's fear of his feigned drowning supports Loon's immaturity in thinking that the act of drowning should be parodied. Pike, upon viewing the interactions between the woman and Loon, realized it's more fun to pull this prank than it is to stand by and watch while someone else did it. Winton's diction of referring to Loon's action as feral, bob provocatively and giggling over the farce of drowning contrasts with the diction used for Pike's thoughts and feelings of guilt and sympathy and contempt. It is through this observational experience that Pike recognizes the difference in how Loon and the females are viewing the situation. Looking at the body paragraphs of the examples in this essay, we see that in one example, Pike was at the river panic as a concerned citizen, yet in another example, he was viewing it through the eyes of a boy who knows how to hold onto the branches underwater. The entailment of this text is dual observation. Now, you want to stay away from general statements. You can't write something general like the examples of the point of view and the diction prove the rationality of the protagonist's thoughts and actions. That hints to the fact you're telling the reader, yeah, go back and read my body paragraph and see how I prove this. No, that's not going to win you an argument. You need to do the summing up yourself. You're the writer of this essay. You need to actually explain to the reader, how is this winning the argument? Your general statement here is not proving anything. That's just words. Yet, if you actually put, Winton gave Pike a dual observation for the reader to examine the scene at the river with the childish maturity of Loon and the maturity of the adult woman. There you go. That's actually hinting back to everything you said, not just in your conclusion, but within your body paragraphs to win the argument. If you get panicked, stressed, or frustrated, simply look at your answers that you wrote for the why the author used the technique in each of your body paragraphs. Then determine what connects them together by looking at the why in your body paragraphs. That's the underlining entailment, which answers how the multiple devices strengthen the author's writing to convey not just that response, not just a rational response, but that complex or multifaceted response. When it comes to the why here, why did the author use the literary elements, or basically what did the author want the reader to learn? The purpose of the text is always for the reader to learn. So you, as the analyst for this, you need to determine, what if I was the writer, what would I want the reader to learn from this particular part of the text? This should also either correspond or support your argument for whichever adjective or adverb to your adjective that you decide to use in your conclusion. This is the full layout that was discussed in the video. Pause the video to take a picture, screenshot, or verify that you fully understand each section. Do you have questions? If so, please post questions in the comments below and I will respond. Write the question in English, provide an example if possible. If you write or speak more comfortably in a different language, please feel free to write in your native language, because sometimes meaning will get lost in translation. You can also message me your question, but we all learn better when we share. Never think that you are the only person needing clarification. And that's how I run my class. Don't think of questions as a sign that you need additional help or you're struggling or whatever. Questions are really, I just need clarification to make sure my thought process is correct. Do you want to learn more on how to think while writing? Click on any of the videos you see here or below, post questions below, and I will respond or upload a specific video to demonstrate a clarifying answer. If you feel you've learned the thought process that helps you with writing, please click the thumbs up, or even better, share with someone else who you think would benefit to watching. And I definitely would appreciate it if you subscribed.